Good morning, students. Today we will start the chapter number 4, the Mughal emperors. Before starting the chapter, we have to memorize to know about the subtopics which we studied in the last class, and the subtopic is Mughal emperors. In the last class we read about Babur and Humayun. You know that Babur, he defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the Battle of Panipat in 1526. Afterward, he defeated Rajput rulers and their allies, their supporter at Khanwa, Battle of Khanwa, at the Battle of Khanwa 1527. And in 1528 he defeated also the Rajputs at Chanderi, and afterward in 1528 he also established control over Agra and Delhi before his death. Afterward, the next successor, the next empire of Mughal emperor was Humayun, and his time was 1530 to 1540, and afterward 1555 to 1556. Understand? He was defeated by Sher Shah Suri at Chausa in 1539. Afterward 1540 he was also defeated, and he fled to Iran in the shelter of Safavid Shah. Afterward he recaptured Delhi in 1555, and the next year he had been died. So afterward we are coming to the subtopics that we are going to study. So be careful and don't miss the lecture. Students, the subtopics which will be started here, the subtopics are Mughal emperors, Mughal traditions of succession, Mughal relation with other rulers, Mansabdar and Jagirdars. So today we will start the first subtopic, that is Mughal emperors, and today we will read about Akbar, the great emperor Akbar. Akbar was 13 years old when he became emperor. His reign can be divided into three periods: 1556 to 1570. Second one is 1517 to 1585, and third one is 1585 to 1605. And when he was 13 years old, he became independent to his regent. Regent means regent was appointed on that time when prince will be youth. Regent will be appointed for a territory. Understand? When the prince will be youth. So he became free from his regent Baram Khan and other members of domestic staff, and he started military campaigns against Suris and other Afghans and his neighboring kingdoms of Malwa and Gondwana. Malwa, that was situated in MP, and Gondwana, that part of MP, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh, and he suppressed the revolt of his brother, half brother Mirza Hakim. Understand? And the Uzbeks were known as Mongol invaders. He also suppressed Mongol invader and his half brother Mirza Hakim. In 1568, the Sisodia capital of Chittor was seized, and in 1569 Ranthambore. He seized the capital Chittor, Sisodia capital Chittor, and he also seized in 1569 Ranthambore. Afterward, his second campaign was 1570 to 1585. Military campaigns in Gujarat were followed by campaigns, and he also attacked on east in Bihar, Bengal and Odisha. These campaigns were complicated by the 1579 and 1580 revolt to support of Mirza Hakim. Mirza Hakim, his half brother, he became the campaign complicated. And last third time, the third campaign 1585 to 1605, he expanded his empire. Campaigns were launched to the northwest. In northwest, he also seized Kandhar. He had taken in his control Kandhar from Safavids. You have heard the name of Safavids, where Humayun had taken shelter when he was defeated by Sher Shah Suri in Kannauj. And he also, Akbar had captured, seized Kandhar from Safavids. He also annexed Kashmir, also Kabul, after the death of Mirza Hakim. After his half brother, he had also taken control over Kabul. Understand? And also he started his campaign in the Deccan. Deccan means South India, and started in Berar, Khandes and parts of Ahmednagar were annexed. Berar was in Hyderabad, part of Hyderabad, and Khandes was part of Maharashtra on that time. So he also captured in these areas, started at Berar, Khandes and parts of Ahmednagar. Afterward, we are coming to read about Jahangir. He was known as Salim. Jahangir, he is also known as Prince Salim, 1605 to 1627. After Akbar, Jahangir started his military campaigns. He also continued military campaign. The Sisodia ruler of Mewar, Amar Singh, accepted Mughal service. Mewar ruler Amar Singh accepted Mughal service. Less successful campaigns against the Sikhs, the Ahoms and Ahmednagar followed. He was less successful to control over Sikhs, Ahoms and Ahmednagar, the part of Maharashtra. Understand? Afterward, we are coming, the next emperor of Mughal Empire was Shah Jahan, 1627 to 1658. Understand? He is also known as Khurram. Mughal campaigns continued. He also continued his campaign to South India, Deccan, under Shah Jahan, and the Afghans noble Khan Jahan Lodi rebelled and was defeated. Khan Jahan Lodi was Afghan noble. He was defeated. He rebelled and he was defeated. He also started campaigns against Ahmednagar, the Bundelas. The Bundelas were Rajputras clan. He started his campaigns against Ahmednagar. The Bundelas were also defeated. And Orchha, that was in MP, and today is in MP. Orchha was seized. And in the northwest, the campaigns to seize Balkh from the Uzbeks was unsuccessful, and Kandhar was lost to the Safavids. You know that Akbar has seized Kandhar from Safavid Shah, but here Shah was unsuccessful to control over Kandahar, and he lost Kandahar to the Safavids, and in 1632 Ahmadnagar was finally annexed with the Bijapur forces sued for peace. Understand? Afterward we are coming the last emperor, we can say it, Aurangzeb. The time being is 1658 to 1707. Aurangzeb, in northeast, the Ahoms were known as tribe, Ahom tribe. The Ahoms were defeated in 1663 by Aurangzeb, but rebelled again in 1680s. He started his campaigns in northwest part and against the Yusuf Jai Pathan, you can say it, and Sikhs were temporarily successful. Earlier he was successful to control over northwest, and his first campaign was successful against Yusuf Jai and Sikhs. Mughal intervention in the succession and internal politics of the Rathod Rajputs of Marwar led to the rebellion, and campaigns against the Maratha chieftains Shivaji were initially successful, but Aurangzeb insulted Shivaji, who escaped from Agra. Earlier Aurangzeb was successful campaigns against Maratha chieftain Shivaji, but when Aurangzeb insulted Maratha chief Shivaji, he escaped from Agra, and he also declared himself as an independent king, and he also started his campaigns against Mughals. Understand? And Prince Akbar also rebelled, and afterward due to Akbar rebellion, Aurangzeb sent armies against the Deccan Sultanate. Bijapur was annexed in 1685 and Golconda in 1687. Annexed means he had taken over the control over Golconda and Bijapur. From 1698, Aurangzeb personally managed campaigns to the Deccan against the Marathas, who started guerrillas warfare. Marathas started guerrillas warfare, and Aurangzeb also had to face the rebellion to North India of the Sikhs, Jat and Satnamis. He also faced the rebellion of Satnamis, Sikhs and Marathas, and in the northeast he also faced the rebellion of Ahoms in the Deccan and in Deccan Marathas. Understand? Afterward we will come to the next subtopic, Mughal traditions of succession. Mughals traditions of succession. The Mughals did not believe in the rule of primogeniture, where the eldest son inherited his father's estate. Primogeniture means where the eldest son will be the heir in place of, after the father, the eldest son will be the successor. Understand? So Mughal didn't believe in the rule of primogeniture, where the eldest son inherited his father's estate, and they followed the Mughal and Timurid custom of Kopar Senri. Kopar Senri means where the division of estate inheritance amongst all the sons. So they were believing in what? Kopar Senri, where the estates where the inheritance will be divided equally among all brothers, all sons of the king. Understand? Afterward, we are coming the next subtopic, Mughal relation with other rulers. Which type of relations they had with other rulers. Students, you know that the Mughal rulers, they campaigned constantly against ruler who refused to accept their authority. But the Mughals became powerful. Many other rulers also joined them voluntarily. Means when Mughals became powerful, other rulers also accepted their authority. Understand? The Rajputs are a good example of this. Many of them married their daughters into Mughal families. Many Rajputs married their daughters into Mughal families, and they also received high positions. But many had also resisted, protested, went against the Mughals. And here we are getting the example of Sisodia Rajputs, a Rajput clan. Sisodia Rajput refused to accept Mughal authority for a long time, and once defeated, however, they were honorably treated by the Mughals, given their lands Watan back as assignments, Watan Jagir. Sisodia Rajputs, they were against the Mughals, but they were defeated, and after when they became defeated, their Watan Jagir, their land, were returned to them. They had control over the lands, but they had to pay taxes to the Mughals. Understand? Afterward, we are coming the next subtopic, Mansabdars and Jagirdars. Understand? Students, you know that when the Mughal Empire started to expand, when the Mughal Empire expanded to encompass different regions, the Mughals recruited diverse bodies of people. Mughals also appointed diverse bodies, means different people from different categories. They appointed Turkish nobles, Iranis, Muslims, Afghans, understand, Rajput, Marathas, and other groups. They included everyone. And those who joined Mughal service were enrolled as Mansabdar. And who were Mansabdars? Those who were enrolled, those who joined Mughal service were known as Mansabdars. And Mansabdar means individual who holds Mansab, meaning position or rank. Mansab means position or rank. Understand? It was grading system used by the Mughals by rank, by salary, by military responsibility. Understand? Mansabdar, who holds Mansab, meaning position or rank. Mansab means position or rank. And rank was divided on the basis of rank, basis of salary, and according to military responsibility. One who had more military responsibilities, known as Great Mansabdar. Mansabdar were divided into different categories: high, medium, and low. Understand? And rank and salary were determined by a numerical value called Jat. Numerical value Jat. The higher the Jat, the more prestigious was the noble's position in court and larger his salary. Jat. Suppose that one who was getting 5,000 Jat, any noble who was getting on that time, the noble will be superior in higher rank, those who are getting only 1000 jat. Understand? Afterward we are coming, the Mansabdar had military responsibilities. They were maintaining cavalry. Cavalry means horse rider, and they were maintaining horse riders for military campaign. Cavalry, Ghudsawar Sena, maintaining cavalry, and they were also paying salary to cavalry men, whatever taxes they were collecting from the Mansab. Mansabdar receives their salaries as revenue assignments called Jagirs, which were somewhat like Iktas but unlike Muktis. You have in the last lesson you have read in Delhi Sultanate, Mukti, Iktedar, Ikta. Ikta means land, and here we are using the term Watan Jagir in place of Ikta, and Mukti, some like here we are using the term Mansabdar, and there we are using what? In last class in Delhi Sultanate that was used Iktedar, Muktis. But Muktis and Iktedar, they were living on the land, on the Iktas, and they were collecting the taxes. But Mansabdar, they were only collecting taxes. The taxes were collected by their servants, and they paid salaries. Whatever the taxes that were got by Mansabdar, they had to pay to their cavalryman, and also they had to take salary from the taxes. Understand? So Mansabdar did not actually reside or administer their Jagirs. They only had the right to revenue. Mansabdar only had the right to take revenue, take taxes, not to control over it. And Muktis and Iktedar, they were collecting taxes, and they were living on the land. And here Mansabdars were collecting taxes with the help of their servants. We know that Akbar had appointed only 29 Mansabdar, whereas Aurangzeb appointed 79 Mansabdar. It means that they had to wait long time for taking taxes, collecting taxes, 79 Mansabdar, and during the time of Akbar, the Mansabdars were only 29, so they were collecting the taxes. And here 79 Mansabdar, so they were searching the opportunity to collect taxes, and they were levying additional taxes to the farmers, and because of it, the farmers and peasantry had been crippled during the time of Aurangzeb because of extra burden. Because every Mansabdar wanted to take taxes, wanted to take their turn, and whatever the chances they were getting, they were trying to collect the taxes, and because of taking additional taxes, the peasantry suffered. So I hope that you have understood all these subtopics clearly. Thanks for watching the video.